All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, like I said, I wanted to talk today about John Brown's raid and just review that workbook assignment. I wanted to talk about John Brown's raid today and the election of 1860 and review kind of the last couple of steps before the Civil War is going to break out. So, the first part, obviously, is John Brown's raid. This is going to be an event that is carried out by the John Brown we learned about in the Kansas-Nebraska crisis. If you remember, guys, just as a little review, he was responsible, him and his men were responsible for the Pottawatomie Massacre, where 5 pro-slavery people that were living in Kansas were butchered and murdered just to kind of send a message to pro-slavery forces, and actually as a response to the burning of Lawrence, Kansas, which was a free or abolitionist town. So obviously, there was a lot of fighting in Bleeding Kansas, but John Brown was in Kansas, and then eventually he makes his way to Virginia, where he is going to try to start a slave uprising. And kind of to answer question 1, what did John Brown want to accomplish? He wants to use violence to try to stop slavery. We can see that in the second sentence, he decided to use violence to try to stop slavery. That's what he wants to do. He's in Virginia now. That's really kind of honestly the heart of, that is going to be really kind of the heart of the Confederate States of America, the state of Virginia. And that's where kind of some of the strongest resistance to abolition and getting rid of slaves is. So John Brown makes his way there in October, and on October 16th, 1859, he and a few of his men, a group of his men, storm the United States Arsenal in Virginia, in Harper's Ferry, Virginia. An arsenal is where weapons are stored, where guns are stored for the military, and those types of things. So ammunition, anything they might need as far as carrying out warfare. So Brown storms the arsenal, and his hope is to be able to take over the arsenal. And once slaves near Harper's Ferry hear that somebody has taken over the arsenal, Brown expects that they are going to rise up. They are going to flock or run to Harper's Ferry. Brown will have more men, and he can, from Harper's Ferry, move throughout the South, gaining slaves as he goes to be able to kind of overthrow the system of slavery. That's what he wants to do. That's his ultimate goal. However, Brown doesn't realize how the system of slavery has really instilled fear into a lot of the African Americans and the slaves that live in the South. And when he takes over the armory, when he's able to successfully take the armory, no slaves come to the armory to rise up against slavery. So Brown sends a few of his men out to try to take and get some slaves to come join them, but those men are not successful. And ultimately, the next morning on October 17th, Robert E. Lee, who is not the commanding general of the Confederate States, but is a colonel in the U.S. Army, and a bunch of his soldiers and other leaders and whatnot, they arrive at Harper's Ferry to force John Brown out of the arsenal. They are ultimately successful. John Brown is tried and convicted of treason, and he is hanged for the crime of treason on December 2nd, 1859. So John Brown attempted to start a slave revolt. However, he was unsuccessful. Now, for the second question, why do you think John Brown's raid scared Southerners? That one's pretty obvious. Southerners were worried that Brown's raid was the start of more attacks on the South. They're afraid that whether it's abolitionists or it's slaves, they're going to take and try to attack the South to overthrow the system of slavery. So that's what scares them. So you have John Brown's raid in 1859, and then following that is an election year. Now, there are a couple of candidates, John C. Breckinridge, John Bell, and Abraham Lincoln, and also Stephen Douglas as well, that try to run for the presidency. So underline the names of the presidential candidates who ran for the election in 1860. We've got Stephen Douglas. We've got John C. Breckinridge from the South. We've got the Constitutional Union Party, who nominated John Bell. And we've got Abraham Lincoln. So slavery is a major issue of the day. And Abraham Lincoln is going to be one of the people that is going to say that we do not want slavery to expand. The South can have what they have, but we don't want slavery to expand into the Western territories, and we need to stop slavery right where it is. So that is going to be his message. That is going to be what he is going to argue, and he's ultimately going to win on that message. And the northern states are going to, in a large majority, vote for him, and no southern state is going to vote for Abraham Lincoln. And at that point, the South begins to believe that they have no voice, that they are not going to be able to prevent the stoppage of slavery. They're not going to be able to continue to expand slavery. Somebody has been elected into the White House that is going to stop that all from happening, and they're not okay with it. They want to be able to expand that system of slavery. They want to be able to continue to have slaves and not have that way of life and that system of labor be threatened. And they believe that Abraham Lincoln is going to threaten the existence of that labor system. So, because of that, they decide to secede or break away from the United States and form their own country known as the Confederate States of America. Now, when it asked the question, what event led Southern states to secede from the United States of America, it was Lincoln's election. Lincoln winning the presidential election of 1860, that caused the Southern states, the Confederate States of America, to want to secede. Once they secede, they elect Mississippi Congressman Jefferson Davis as president, as the first president of the Confederate States of America. And at that point, the Civil War is inevitable. There's no way of avoiding it. The first event we're going to talk about on Thursday, aka tomorrow, the first event that is going to really touch off or start the Civil War is going to be the firing on Fort Sumter, where the Confederate States are going to shoot at a fort that is controlled by the United States. And that is going to start the Civil War. That is what's going to lead to the Civil War. But we'll talk more about that on Monday. So that is just a summary of the last couple of events and kind of the final straw that results in the Confederate States of America seceding from the United States and becoming their own country. So that wraps that up, guys. I hope you guys were able to learn something new. I hope you guys had an easy time reading through this. If you're still struggling, if you got any questions, please reach out to me and I'll make sure I get back to you as quickly as I can. With that said, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will catch you guys tomorrow for the first part of the Civil War. Have a great day, guys.